Hi everybody, today I'm showing you how I made this amazing hoodie using a simplicity pattern. I think it's 11066. And basically you grab this pattern, you go to the back, you do your bust measurement, and you match it with that of the pattern for your sizing. And then once you get your size right, you can go down and it'll let you know how many yards of fabric you need to go and buy or go out and thrift like I did. The backer patterns are extremely helpful. So once you figured out your size, you would go and open up the big sheet of pattern paper that is inside the pattern and cut out your size. Each size has a specific line that you would just cut on. Once you cut those out, this is what your pattern pieces would look like. And then from there, in the actual instructions, it'll let you know how to lay out your pattern pieces on your fabric if you went out and bought them, or even if you thrifted them, it'll let you know how to place them to get the most bang for your buck. This is the fabric I'm using. I'm so excited about it. It is a jacquard. I know that now. Before I just thought it was like some kind of upholstery fabric, but it does have a little bit of stretch to it, but it was too beautiful to pass up at the thrift store. Literally $3.99 at Goodwill. Look at those colors. I'm in love with the blue flowers as well, and I wish they showed up more on the front of my hoodie. So next, just cut out all your pattern pieces. After you're done with that, you want to make sure you mark your dots and notches. The pattern will tell you where to like dot and notch. You don't want to notch too far, so like literally like maybe 2 centimeters in with your snippers. And then after that, just start with the instructions. I skipped step 1 because I'm not putting a drawstring in this, but I went on to step 2, which was pin the front of the sleeve to the front of the hoodie. Once that's done, you want to go ahead and sew it down. I found the perfect matching thread. Also, in your directions, you should see what your seam allowance is. For this pattern, it's 5/8, which is actually standard for most patterns, and there it is on your sewing machine. You just find that and you match your edges up with that. Then I went ahead and pinned the other front sleeve to the hoodie. Once that was done, I went ahead and pressed in those seams and then serged them. Then I had a little try on sesh to see how it was looking, and not too shabby. So next you want to pin the back of the sleeves to the back piece of the hoodie. It's basically what you did with the front, but now you're like closing off the hoodie as a whole. As like one piece to just throw over your head. And then here I'm showing you too how to line up your edge with the seam allowance line. So I'm on the 5/8 line, and to keep your line straight, you want to look at your seam allowance line, not at the needle, because the needle's staying still. You want to just make sure that your straight lines are evenly passing over that 5/8 line. And then I serged the backs as well after I pressed them, and had another try on, and this is when I realized that I'd probably shortened the hoodie because it was a little too long. Serged the edges of the 2 hood pieces so that way I'd have a finished seam in the middle. And I went ahead and pinned both those right sides facing or good sides facing and sewed down that back like middle seam. Once that was done, I opened the seam up, pressed it, and then serged it as well. Next, I used my pattern piece to figure out how to close off the like opening shape of the hood. I knew it was a 1 inch fold, so I went ahead and just took my measuring tape and did a 1 inch fold all the way around, pressed it, and then took it to my sewing machine to sew it down. And after that, I just pinned the hood to the neck hole using the markings from the pattern, so that way you have a little bit of overlap in the front to like close off your hood and like to have no raw edges showing. I took off the little arm of my sewing machine so I could just stick the hole like onto the sewing machine and just sew around it in a circle. Oh, we're having a bobbin break, my bad. Ran out of thread, but after this was done, I picked back up where I left off and closed off that hole. So this is me trying it on now. The hood looks great. I'm just making sure that there's no holes or gaps or like any accidental like pleats or anything. And then once that was done, I went ahead and top stitched down the seam allowance on the inside towards the bottom of the hoodie so it wouldn't like come up every time I put the hood on. And you'll see that in the next clip. Oh, first I serged. Might be. I'm rushing. I serged it first so that way it'd be neat and it won't fray in the wash. And then I took it to the sewing machine to top stitch the inside seam down towards the bottom of the hoodie so that way it wouldn't fold up every time I put the hoodie on. Next I moved on to the pocket, read the instructions, serged the edges, and then turned it around and folded it like kind of the way the instructions were telling me. This part was a little confusing, but I believe in you guys. We're all smart, and you fold it down to where you start to get the shape of the pocket. Once I did that, I went and pressed it and now sewed down the two openings of the pocket, and after that pinned the pocket to the front of the hoodie in a place that I enjoyed it because I was going to crop it and I hadn't cropped it yet, so I just moved it up a little higher and used it as a guide to crop. Once I sewed that down, now I was ready to crop my hoodie. This was a bad angle to show you guys because I could not cut and not block the frame, so I just moved. And then I used that front piece that I cut off. I cut off about like 2 inches to help me cut off the back piece so that way it'd be even. So once I serged the bottom, I went ahead and pinned the sides and sleeves closed and sewed those down. And after I sewed them, I went ahead and hemmed the bottom of the hoodie as well. And then you're done. Here is the finished hoodie. I loved it so much. Hopefully this tutorial was easy to follow. Go out and get this pattern because it is so easy to use and extremely beginner friendly. I really love this hoodie and definitely looking forward to making more. But until next time, I will catch you all in my next video. See you all later.